I'm going to move.
So the attempt this morning, without bringing on a lot of boredom here, is to review our Kadampa Center budget. Every year we make a financial plan near the beginning of the year. The board of directors agrees on all the things that we're going to do, and practically everything we're going to do has some financial consequence. We have to decide we're going to spend money, and we have to decide where it's going to come from. So what I'd like to do first here is review our budget and then how we're doing in terms of income and expenses so far this year. Then relate that to our annual pledge campaign and our everyday practice of donating on Sundays and at classes, things like that. So here is a list of our proposed expenses in the budget for this year. It goes by categories. There's 6 or 7 categories here. And over here at the top is our most important activity at the center, and that is having teachers here. Geshe Gelik and Geshe Sangpo and Venerable Tendran and Donna and Sarah. They are all on the payroll, and they receive health insurance and some car allowances.
Just the Sangha receive health insurance.
Okay, just the Sangha receive the health insurance, but the budget for the year there is about $107,000, and so far this year we've actually spent about $80,000 on that, so we're right on target. We're spending at the level we expected. Then for the past 2 years we've had a major activity putting on the Light of the Path retreat, and we know that was canceled this year, but it was in the budget for $58,000. Then we have to pay mortgage and loan interest expense here on our center. And one of the real miracles, if you know how we used to operate back in being in the basement days, is we have such a nice center here, 2 buildings, enough land, some parking, and all these things around us. And through a miracle of generosity in the past, it's about 2/3 paid for. But the bank has loaned us about 1/3 of the money, and every year, of course, we have to pay off the mortgage. Then it costs money for electricity and gas and just daily operations, insurance. We expected to spend about $15,000 having 3 visiting teachers this year. That was Khensur Rinpoche and Venerable Rabina and Venerable Amy, all of whom showed up and gave great teachings. Fundraising costs money in the sense of mailings and meetings, things like that. And then incidental spiritual program expenses at about $6,000. So our actual total budget for the year is almost $250,000, $241,000 here. And we've actually spent $144 so far this year, or 60%. Now the year is more than 60% gone, so you can see we're operating below expected levels. We have one big reason is we didn't hold the Light of the Path retreat, but we're also squeezing the pennies. And if you'd like to think about the attitude towards spending around here, there are some things where we do spend considerable money, and there are other areas where we really squeeze the pennies. If you look at these chairs, just look at the chairs we sit on in here, you'll notice there are 3 different kinds of chairs, plus some old pews. Now ask yourself, how much did we spend? Why do we have so many kinds of chairs? The answer is, if it wasn't a closeout sale, or a giveaway, or a yard sale, or something, we don't have it. In other words, we never spent, I don't believe we spent more than $1 for any chair that's in this center. And we have about 8 different kinds. And that's why we did not go out and buy $75 chairs from some office supply to equip our center. And sometimes I wonder if we're squeezing the pennies too hard, but we are behaving in a non-materialistic way most of the time. So let's review the expected income. This is where generosity on your part comes in. In the budget, we had planned $68,000 income from the Light of the Path retreat. We didn't hold it, but somebody sent in $100. So over here we have the actuals, and somebody sent in $100. Our annual appeal this last year, we planned for $67,000 to come in from that. We've had 44, and let me just show you some more details on that. Last year's annual appeal, which was held in October, we had a final pledge amount of $72,500, and here's the great news, $63,000 has actually been paid in, leaving, that's 87%, leaving only $9,500 left. And we know from experience that Kadampa people, once they pledge, have always been very good about paying in the money. So we're quite confident that this money will come in, and this is not that much. So every year we have this appeal, and there's a 15-month campaign. We start in October, we get the annual appeals. Some people start to pay their money in right away, that's great. Other people take it as a calendar year thing, like for 2012, so they're paying gradually over the year by the month or by the quarter, or maybe just one big payment at some time or other. So each annual campaign lasts about 15 months, and last year's is doing just great. Now we're at the point where it's time to start next year's. So now let's go back to the talking about our sources of income, because pledging is important, but it's only about 40% of all of our income. We have about $20,000 expected in in-kind giving. That's housing for Sangha mostly. We expected about $20,000 to be given when Khensa Rinpoche visited, when Venerable Rabina visited. That went very well this year. We actually brought in $31,000. Other parts of the spiritual program, like all our classes, we've had $12,000 come in gifts connected with that. Sunday giving, we expected $18,000. We've had about $12,000. Tara sponsorship, many of you took part in sponsoring Tara statues this year. We expected $17,000. We've had about $21,000, so that was enthusiastically done. And so we've had $138,000 in income so far this year, and compared to budget, that's 57%. Now you'll notice the other number was 60% for expenses. So we, in fact, are running slightly behind. Expenses are ahead of income so far this year. Here's some details on that. Income is $138,500, and expenses through the middle of last week were $144,700 for a deficit of $6,200. Now, those of you who attended a meeting about a month ago, our major donor meeting, at that time I was able to tell people, hey, we're right at break even. You know, we've had income 50 cents more a day than expenses, but that's not true. In the last month, donations have really fallen off. Where we stand for the whole year right now is income is at $471 a day, and expenses are $492. There's a $21 a day deficit. And if you carry that out for 300 days, you get a $6,000 deficit. So that's where we're at. And in the last month, the amount in our checking account that we operate out of has fallen from $23,000 to about $9,000. So one item of concern here is that after all the enthusiasm about giving for the Tara campaign and our visiting teachers that brought in considerable income, we still have 2.5 months of the year left, and really there is a necessity that Sunday donations and class donations and your pledges continue in, because really if the next 2 months look like this last one, we are going to be out of money. We're really temporarily here. I know things vary, you know, things come in at different times, expenses hit at different times, but we're paying all the bills, they're all paid up, but this amount in the checking account is getting pretty low. Let's just review one other aspect of our finances here. We have something called restricted funds, and that's where we keep money that are for a specific purpose. And we have 6 of these purposes. We have a money market account, and we keep money in there in what we call the Stupa account, the Atisha statue account, the children's fund, a medical deductible expense fund, a major repair fund in order to repair the center if some big thing breaks, like the air conditioning breaks, and a Kadampa and altar improvement fund. So we have about $49,000 there, but each of those dollars is dedicated to a certain purpose. It's been given with that intention, so we can't really take this money and use it for something else. And just as a sidelight, as of last month, we had spent $21,000 so far this year on the Stupa. The Stupa fund, all the bookstore profits go into that. When we sell books here, we sell them pretty much at the price you'd get at a bookstore locally here, and the profit we make on it goes into the Stupa fund. That's been our practice for many years, and that's where the money to work on the Stupa came from. Now let's just review one other aspect of our finances in the last year here. Time goes by quickly, and when we occupied this building, when we became owners, it's actually been 4 3/4 years ago. And we had a mortgage which had to be renegotiated in January of 2012, just a couple months ahead. So starting a few months ago, I began working with banks to see what we could do to get a better mortgage, lower interest rate, and we also had 3 personal loans of $20,000 from 3 very generous members, people who are still members here, who gave money at that time to help us renovate this building. It was just absolutely needed at that time. We could not borrow enough money to do that. And we've never paid those loans off. So in July, we got a new mortgage for $233,000. It's for 15 years and at 5.4%. And at the same time, we took some of that money and we paid off the personal loan. So now Kadampa Center owes money, but it's only to First Citizens Bank. So we have a business-like relationship there. We are paying that off at the required rate, and we don't actually have the money on hand to pay it off any faster. So under the way things stand right now, we have 14 more years to go to pay for our building here. So let's just review the expected plans for 2012. It's already time to think about the budget for next year. The board has been talking about it. We're not expecting to add any paid Sangha or staff. I should mention here, Venerable Chukyi and Venerable Lamo that you see around here so often are not paid at all. They don't get any health insurance, they don't get any pay, they don't get anything.
No housing.
Financially. No housing, nothing. Our other Sangha, the reason why we have 5 people and a total annual expense of about $100,000 is they work for very low wages. We're not into materialism, and you know, just having lentils with the rice is probably a luxury for some of them, because our pay rates are $4 to $8 an hour, basically, and at that rate, we have to have car allowances too, or else people couldn't drive. So we're paying very low amounts. We're not expecting to add anything there this next year. We're not expecting any pay or benefit increases. We don't really see how we can pay for it. We're only expecting 5 Tara statues to be sponsored this next year. We have 10 left, and we're expecting it's going to take 2 more years for those to reach full sponsorship. We're expecting to bring in 3 visiting teachers, about the same as this year, Khensa Rinpoche if we can get him back. And Venerable Rabina, I believe, has agreed to come, and I'm not sure if we have the other one lined up yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. So with all this planned activity, we are trying to move our funding a little more toward the annual appeal. And the annual appeal is carried out when you fill out this little piece of paper. There's some of them on the table out here in the entryway. And it just says, I agree to make one-time payments, or I agree to a monthly payment, or whatever you can do, and you're going to write checks or use a credit card or whatever. So we do keep track of that, and then we kind of know in advance that the money will be coming in. So in that annual appeal, we're hoping that this year we'll have $84,000 in pledges. And that's higher than last year. We're trying to move more toward pledges and less toward the uncertainty of just hoping something lands in the box. So even here, this is only about 40% of the money that we spend locally. Leaving aside the Light of the Path retreat, this is only about 40% of all the donations that we need. The other 60% still has to come from class time donations, from Sunday donations, from donations that come with visiting teachers, and Tara Statue sponsorships. Those would be the big categories we would expect. So that completes this quick review. So we have two generosity opportunities. One is the annual pledging, and the other is donations at other times. Clearly we need people to do both of those things because they each represent about half of all of our income, and we definitely don't have more income than we need, as you can see. We are just barely making ends meet, I guess you could say. And just the last month, the situation looks a little serious here. We do need a flow of donations to get us through the rest of the year, and then we need people to look ahead to next year and make pledges. So that concludes our financial report. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Yes?
Do you have an idea, David, about how many active members there are, or how many people come to the center on a fairly regular basis during a calendar year?
Yes.
That you could spread this out over?
Yes. We had to tell some story, an honest story, to the bank. Being Buddhist, I tried to keep it honest, to the bank when it was time for the mortgage. And if you look through our records at all the people who want to be on our email list and who either give a gift or show up at least once a year, that comes to about 550 people. If you take those who make a donation in a given year, it's maybe 350, although sometimes occasional ones, I mean, people might drop by for one visit and just make a small donation. We don't know who they are if it's cash. You know, our membership has grown depending on how you count it, but it's at least in the 300 to 500 person range. And we do every year try to purge off the rolls those who we know have passed away or have really left the state and have no connection anymore, things like that. So we're pretty sure about those 300 to 500 names. Any other questions? Yes?
So the main source of all of the giving then mainly comes, it's individual giving, and then there is some generated expenses from the Tara statues, but mainly it's just people. There aren't any there's no grant writing or any kind of organizational support.
Yes, that is correct. I didn't explicitly mention that, but as a Buddhist center, we don't get actually a dime from any place else. We actually don't have any grants. There's no international Buddhist organization that sends us money to operate. all the funds we operate on actually have to be generated right here, and there's maybe a small exception with the Light of the Path retreat, where people come from around the world to attend it, and so some of that money might come from Australians or people in Taiwan. It really does. But our everyday expenses here all come from people that you see right here.
And we don't charge for anything. We're one of the
Yeah.
only centers,
Well,
for the new folks, we're the only center, or one of the only centers in the organization that we belong to where everything is on a donation basis. We don't have set fee for anything.
Yes, I think you can, if you check with other Buddhist centers, you'll find that sometimes they charge $10 just to get in the door for the Sunday teaching or something like that, or X amount for a class. And one of our traditions here is that we don't do that. But we still have to have money to make the place go. And because there is no, we have no Mr. Buffett who granted us anything, and we're not living off any trust fund. In fact, we have talked here today about all the money we have got. There's $9,000 in the checking account, and there's about $50,000 in that reserve fund, the Stupa fund and so on. That's all the money we have. And we own this property here with its 2 buildings and its mortgage. And that's everything, what you see around us here. Question?
So the other thing, do you have an idea of sort of the range of giving for people? You know, somebody like from $1, say $10 to 1,000 or 5,000, sort of just the capacity sort of what people do.
Well, I think our annual pledging, I can't say I have in mind just exact amounts, but we have some generous members who are financially well situated who give us several thousand a year, and then others, there's a larger number who might give 1,000 a year, and maybe even more at 500 a year, and then on down. You know, I think one of the points of Buddhist wisdom is giving is important, but not to the point where it really damages your own family or self. There's got to be some wisdom to it. So we just have that wide range in which people, you know, might pledge of $5 a year is welcome. It would put your name on the list, and you know, but 5,000 is great too.
I'll take 50,000.
Question?
Just kind of to add to Susan's questions, what do you consider a major donor? What dollar figure of giving would put someone into that category of a major donor?
I don't actually know what number was used this year.
Go ahead,
Oh, no, what was the question?
What puts you in the major
The major donor, that you know, we had the major donor dinner, and I don't actually know what number was used.
Right. Our major donor we just consider as people who, we call those at our investor group, or people that have given probably large amounts at a sacrificial level over a period of time. What Donna has our numbers a little bit better within the breakdown of the groups. Do you want to
Yeah, off the top of my head, I would say there are very few, less than half a dozen probably, who give more than 2,000 a year. There's a pretty sizable group between 1,000 and 2,000.
Right. And then the bulk is
And then
between
the bulk
100 and
is
5.
between about 500 or 200 and 1,000 probably, and then scatterings of people who, as David said, might come in once and make a one-time donation, or who their circumstances are such that they can't afford to give more than that.
Right. I guess we want to make the point that giving has to be proportional to the ability to give. So the Dharma is here for people who can't give anything.
Their
And,
presence gives a lot.
you know, just to be a member of the group and maybe volunteer. We have a lot of volunteer activities which don't involve giving money but involve giving time, so people can do that too.
And if they didn't give their time, we'd have to pay someone to give it, and we don't have the ability to do that. So,
Yeah.
so we totally
so-
rely on
That's
that.
huge, volunteer.
Yeah.
Yeah, volunteers. Check in.
Yeah, a question here?
A couple of things. Could you flip back the pages to the one where we have the income that we hoped?
The hope to have this year?
Yeah.
Yeah. Here it is.
Just so I can copy. But another question is, I know a lot of corporations will do matching donations. I don't know if we're structured,
Most of them exclude.
Religious
they do exclude religious.
Yeah, well, we're eligible, you know, we are a tax deductible IRS 501c3 corporation. So when you give your money to us, you can tell Uncle Sam, I made the donation and it's tax deductible, and of course it would be for a corporation too. And it's up to each individual corporation if they decide to do that matching. I don't think we get any money that way.
Most corporations refuse to give anything that's associated with a religious or spiritual thing. They give more things that are geared toward education, you know, and things like that.
Okay.
We did, last year we did have a matching donation from members within. It was for first-time pledgers, but those matching funds came from within our membership.
Yeah, Tendra?
I just want to say, you know, one of the things, so not to be discouraged by this kind of thing, because it's amazing that we're breaking even in the, you know, considering the economy in our country right now. Also, you know, I mean, this is what all churches start as. You know, we're just so accustomed to the churches of our culture that have been around for quite a while, and so, but they too started like we did. They started in people's homes and everything, and, you know, and it is up to us. It's the people who come that have to support, because we're the main immediate beneficiaries. I think the whole society benefits. You know, it all ripples out. But it's, you know, and that it really is important to, but it is up to us. It's like we have to decide whether we value it enough for it to continue to exist, you know, within our means. So it's tricky, and it really is the range. I mean, one of the reasons we don't charge, I mean, I'm one of the big proponents for not charging for anything, is because when I first came here, I was out of work and recently divorced, which wasn't anything unusual, but so I did not have the ability to offer anything. So, you know, and I went to a 4-day teaching within 2 weeks of coming, you know, and didn't pay anything. So I'm really grateful for that. But, you know, but I think that we really have to address this issue. I'm the bookkeeper. I really think we need to address this issue. I don't have any doubt about that. But we want to remember that it's good news that in a very short period of time, from going from no mortgage kind of expenses of any, you know, real tangible sort, you know, we're supporting, well, trying to support 5 people, and you know, and we've got a building, and we can have a lot more people come, and all that's really good news. It's just costs money. I mean, it's just that we need to keep. So when people say, you know, if you hear people say, why am I always asking for money? Because we need it. I mean, that's why. You know, it's like the pledge. I don't listen to, you know, UNC radio when it's pledge week either. But it's, you know, but it's not out of greed or out of trying to bore you to death. It really is because this is what it takes in order to, because we don't remember. I mean, how many people walk out of the building and go, oh, I meant to put something in the donation box and I forgot. You know, I mean, that's what we're like. I mean, we're just ordinary people. So, you know, but I think that what we, you know, the good news is we've done this at all. I mean, that's really, I mean, you know, the economy's terrible. We have a lot of members that have been laid off and, you know, been unemployed for a while, and we're still able to do this. So this is great news. We just need to remember that we really are on the brink all the time. So we want to be able, so when we're able to do better than that, let's go for it. But don't forget us, and, you know, so, and when if you hear somebody just, you know, not be real happy with these speeches, you know, let them know that it's not out of, you know, it's because it's out of necessity. It's, you know, we don't really enjoy talking about it either, so.
So many
Jessica.
thanks to David, and just to tie everything, yeah, David, thank you. And just, so in terms of tying the teachings that Tendrin gave us today about practicing generosity, what we're asking everyone to walk away and consider is that as you think of your own personal practice of generosity, however you'd like that to be, you would strongly consider making an investment in our center. That's what a pledge is. A pledge is making a commitment, saying, I'm going to make a financial contribution for this year. So this is what we would ask you to consider going forward. Thank you.
Jessica,
Thank you, everyone.
are you trying to collect the pledge forms in the next couple of weeks or what?
They were just mailed out. Many of you got them at home. It's just whenever you can give. We run this campaign for the next couple of months, so we'll happily accept your pledge over the next couple of months.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And after.